good evening. My name is Mcmasters, and I am a candidate for Ohio's 10th District. Let me start by putting my military training in use and bring the bottom line up front. I believe I'm a fiscal conservative that believes that we need to attack the deficit and reduce the debt in order to lay the foundation for prosperity for us and our children. Speaking of children, I'm a proud father of 5, and I've been married to my wife Marilyn for almost 15 years. I'm a retired Air Force officer, retired in October of 2009. I supported Operation Desert Storm, Sarajevo, and Somalia relief. I had deployments at Ramstein Air Force Base, Cairo, Egypt, and Kabul, Afghanistan. I taught mathematics and statics at the Air Force Academy Prep School, and I flew the X-45, an unmanned aerial bomber, at Edwards Air Force Base. I retired here out of the AFRL as a research scientist. I've been blogging since 1998, some of it whimsical, some of it serious, but if you look back at my old websites, you'll see I've had many cutting-edge ideas that have now become common sense. For instance, 4 months before General Petraeus took command in Iraq, I wrote an article that basically was the same policy that we undertook as far as the Iraqi awakening. President Obama has a new plan to address the housing refinancing, where people that have been making their payments but are underwater are able to take advantage of the current interest rates. I started this proposal back in 2009 and have been developing it ever since. If Congress would have adopted my 1999 campaign finance reform proposal, then Citizen United would not be a problem today. Besides blogging though, or blogging and the ideas I put out there show that I'd be a leader in Congress, capable of proposing new ideas as well. But beside the blogging and that leadership role, I have a strong educational foundation. I have a master's degree in education, and I'm certified to teach mathematics. I have an undergraduate degree in physics. By the way, can anybody tell you how you can tell an extroverted physicist? An extroverted physicist will look at your shoes when he's talking to you. And he tells bad jokes too. Okay? But this brings up one of my other main objectives to talking to you. I believe that we need to change the perception we have of what makes a good representative in Congress. We recently had a president whose chief characteristic was he was somebody that you felt you could go out and have a beer with. Look what that got you. My strengths are a willingness to do a lot of technical work, the ability to understand details, and the sensibility to propose credible solutions. Sure, I have passion. I would die for my wife and kids. And patriotism is one of the reasons I joined the military and why I'm running for Congress. And go to one of my daughter's soccer games and you can see somebody with passion. Passion is good for football games. But when it comes to proposing a healthcare system, when we're trying to promote education, when we're preparing for a natural disaster, when we decide to take military action, these decisions take more than passion. Yes, your representative has to understand people, but there's nobody more passionate than a drowning person, and there's nobody more dangerous. So if you decide that you're going to help that drowning person, you need to be able to evaluate the situation and make a calculated decision on when and how to intervene. Your representative in Congress has to be able and willing to make calculated decisions. They have to be able to manage resources and logistics. They have to understand the numbers behind monetary decisions. Recently, I went to an administrative council meeting in Huber Heights. Now keep in mind, I like all the council members there in Huber Heights. I find they're dedicated to their positions and they're generally nice people. But me and my neighbor, as we sat there, they talked about 2 agenda items Thank you. They talked about 2 agenda items having to do with the new aquatic center. One of those agenda items had to do with the amphitheater, and the budget that 3 months ago was $500,000, and this month is $1.4 million. And they also talked about the sign that was going to go out in front of the building. Should the sign be the Huber Heights Aquatic and Recreation Center, or should it read the Heights Aquatic and Recreation Center? As my neighbor and I drove home, he said, wasn't it peculiar that they had a 3-minute discussion about the budget and a 40-minute discussion about the sign? This highlights one of the reasons why you need a different perspective of who belongs in Congress. Anybody, even those of us that can't make sentences, can voice our opinions about how a sign should look. This brings me back to my beginning. I'm a fiscal conservative that believes that we should lower the deficit and reduce the debt in order to lay the foundation of prosperity for us and our children. Thank you.
We have questions from Mr. Mcmasters.
Oh, I thought I saw a hand way in the back. But, Mary?
Okay, as a fiscal conservative, do you think our problem stems from overspending or under-revenuing?
Yes, as a matter of fact. And that's what I tell people. I got into a conversation with people, and I was getting a conversation that think we should only reduce the budget. But the fact of the matter is, if we're going to pay for the stuff, then we need to get the revenues where they need to be in order to make those payments. So if we decided that we were going to go to war in Iraq and Afghanistan, we needed to bite the bullet and actually fund those wars instead of hiding the cost through tricks and accounting and putting them on the next president. So if it takes raising revenues, it takes raising revenues. But I'm not all for just increasing to 38% back from 35%. We've given great tax breaks to people at the lower end of the schedule too. The fact of the matter is we all need to have a shared sacrifice for getting us out of this fiscal problems. Sir?
I've got a question. You talked about reducing spending. What specific programs would you reduce?
Well, and I'm going to get myself in trouble because I make all my money on base, being retired military. But I think that all programs need to actually, everybody that belongs to those programs need to evaluate where they can save money. And so I've got a lot of experience in the military and how they spend money. So that's one of those places that I think we could save a lot of money. And my personal opinion is that if we were well managed, we could get the same product for 30% less than what we're paying for it now. Now, we can't go out and cut 30% out of the military budget today because that doesn't help the management part, but there certainly are savings in there that we can look for. But if it comes to Social Security, if it comes to even our social programs, like that, people need to buck up and look at how their particular programs can help save money and get us out of our financial mess. And that makes 2.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Since Cena brought it up, and I know it's a concern to some people, but I actually did run in the Republican primary against Boehner 2 years ago. And I've really always considered myself more of a Democrat than a Republican. I was a Democrat the whole time I was active duty in the Air Force. But I do believe that I would feel comfortable talking about the principles of both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. But I see myself more as looking at the Republican strategies with the Democratic principles. So if you recall the State of the Union address, you know that they made a big deal about the 15% capital gains tax versus the possible 30% of those people that are working on there. And the whole Democratic discussion, and I know why all those Republicans, was like, oh, we're jealous of the people with capital gains, therefore we have to reach into their pockets and grab it out there for ourselves. And I'm not a person that believes in any way that we should be reaching into pockets of other people just because we're jealous. But the Republican strategy on that would be, well, 15% versus 35%. Which is the way that we would be more likely to invest our money? We're going to invest in capital gains, and we're going to stop manufacturing. We're going to stop doing what we produce. Therefore, if we want to do more production in this country, we need to make those rates closer so that we're not giving an investment advantage to those people that are taking advantage of the capital gains. So I look at myself as somebody that understands the Republican strategies and why it works, but somebody with the Democratic principles and how to help the working people as we progress further. Thank you.